Prasad Rangnekar is an internationally renowned yogi, teacher, and master of the mind, body, and energy practices of traditional Hatha Yoga. At the tender age of 9, he began his yogic journey through asana, pranayama, and the traditional study of scripture. Over the last 2 decades, Prasad has shared his wisdom in over 15 countries around the world. His core teachings are rooted in the transformation of the self through self-acceptance, self-empowerment, self-trust, and life acceptance. Today, we sit down with Prasad to share his wisdom about the path toward freedom and liberation. Namaste, Prasad. Thank you for being here with us today. Now you have been traveling for about 2 decades, teaching the transformation of Hatha Yoga, essentially, throughout the world. Some common themes that you have through teaching self-transformation and self-realization, I understand, are the pursuit of bliss, love, and freedom. So in yoga, we talk about the principles of creation, destruction, and preservation, or sustaining. And what I'm finding now in North America, or in most of our world, we're really seeing in the media that there's a lot of focus on destruction. And whether that be through gaming or videos, films, news coverage, there's a lot of emphasis on destruction and violence. And in addition to that, there is a subset or undertone of freedom being somehow achieved by taking freedom away from others. What is the effect on human consciousness and the mind when we're seeing these kinds of messages?
What I feel is the episodes of destruction have not really increased in the world. Yeah, they have, but because of media and because of communication, modes of communication, we hear about them quite a lot. 2000 years ago, if some war happened in another continent, we would never know about it, because the field of knowledge, a field of information was perhaps your village and 10 villages down the road. That's it. But now we are hearing a lot. There are good things too, which perhaps the media doesn't want us to know because it's not stimulating enough. Yeah? And just like I told you before, we are being sold destruction because we are feeding on distraction. Right? If we don't need distraction, we want to know. We ourselves want to know, hey, what happened to that celebrity? What happened to that company? What happened to that product? It did well? Okay. It didn't do well? Why? We somewhere we have started feeding on this information too. Yeah? And we ourselves are responsible for creating a media like this. If we don't encourage such news, it will perhaps not be fed to us. Now, sometimes the media will sensationalize things too, because we like to feed ourselves on that. This is because every moment we are looking for next best stimulation. Whatever it may be. Tomorrow, if the news is not spicy enough, you will shut the television, go to your kitchen and eat some spicy chips.
Right.
Right? We are constantly looking for stimulation. And this is the scary part is this is all happening unconsciously.
Right.
Nobody consciously wants to eat a whole packet of spicy potato chips, but it happens.
And so that constant searching for stimulation, would you say then that it's a part of trying to satiate something that's happening in our life, it's also a part of the obstacle towards actually what we're trying to achieve by constantly satiating the senses? Why do you think that we're doing that?
We have become now like we are on autopilot. Yeah, we are on autopilot, and people who are constantly satiating themselves through sensational media or sensational food or whatever it may be, they themselves don't know it. I mean, even if you have a friend, you know, who eats a kilo of chocolate every night,
Right.
And you tell them, and even if they are a little conscious, they will say, "Yes, I know, but I cannot help it." We as a humanity, somewhere I feel, are in this mode of self-sabotage. And it has been happening since ages. But now we also have beautiful things of technology, you know, which we can use to find a way out of it. So basically what I want to say is, if some of us who are at least in this zone of knowing that they are in this habit of distracting themselves, we need to just take a step back and not allow that to happen. That would need some strong determination, strong discipline, strong dedication, practice. You know, and I'm appealing to all the spiritual people that would see this video, yogis or therapists. I mean, we are normal people. Sometimes we also slip. Many times we slip. But what do? We blame ourselves, and then we feel bad about ourselves. Rather than that, we just try to find out how is it I'm going to. The whole process of what is written in yoga as pratyahara, you know,
Right.
slowly delineating yourself from sensory stimulation, and not just finishing it there, but just turning the whole attention and awareness inwardly. As far as what you asked me about, how does it affect the society? Well, individuals create society. And society at large, I feel, is an unconscious organism. Right? I mean, if you look at the society at large, we still love to go to war. We still love to cut down miles and miles of forests a day. We still love to destroy the natural resources greedily. As a humanity, as an organism, we need to become more consciously aware of everything, us and the nature as such. And the major role needs to be played by spiritual people, like yogis, like Ayurvedic therapists, like whoever, Tai Chi or whoever it is.
Right.
People who are in that zone, they have a major sense of responsibility and role to play in raising the awareness. So rather than waking up 1,000 other people who are asleep, people who are slightly awake, they need to focus more on being more awake, and that will perhaps change the balance of, as I say, balance of power, no? Balance of awareness,
Right.
you know. So it's the responsibility of those few who are slightly awake and aware to change the balance of power by becoming more aware themselves.
When we're looking at collective consciousness or collective unconsciousness, what the factors are that contribute to that, and therefore how we can move out of it. So we know that we're in the Kali Yuga right now. We know that we are experiencing what some would say an age of darkness and ignorance, and therefore many practitioners and people who are slightly awake can move more towards bringing that kind of liberation to themselves, and as a result, the universe can respond. But my question, I guess, around that would also be, are there other ways that you would suggest that could help to increase that potential for more people?
Yes, actually many ways. But first and foremost, I would like to say is, again, reiterate the fact that those who are a little conscious should focus more of their energy and effort in becoming more conscious. Yeah? And I have seen this in the life, my own life and the life of my students. One girl or one person comes to a yoga class and nobody in their house has anything to do with yoga. And slowly they transform themselves, and slowly the mother comes and the father asks what is happening. Oh, 2 years ago you used to be so angry, so depressed, now nothing happens, I also want to know. So I have seen units of families getting completely transformed over a certain period of time. I can give you hundreds of examples. So if we look at that as a model of evolving of a community or a society, it's a perfect model. There's so many people around, One like simple example, one person from a family starts going to the gym. Forget yoga, forget spiritual paths. Just wants to have a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. Once person starts going to the gym and starts exercising seriously, then the children are inspired, then the husband or wife is inspired, and after 1 year, 2 years, the whole family is a health, wellness oriented family.
Right.
Wow. And that could be the model. But how did it start? It started with that one person who ventured out into the unknown, so-called unknown. So I feel, again, we yoga teachers or Ayurvedic therapists are those people who have a matchstick and a matchbox in their hand.
Right.
And even though a matchstick looks very tiny, it has a potential of putting a whole forest on fire, right? So that way we have to realize what the power of the thing that we're holding in our hands, in the terms of wisdom and the terms of expansiveness, and just go about doing that. So we spiritual people have a lot of responsibility on their head, and they need to transform themselves and need to inspire others, rather than focusing more on transforming others and ignoring themselves.
Right.
It's like the announcement that happens in the flight, If you have a small child with you, and in case of turbulence or drop of pressure, you put your own mask first, and then save the child. Same logic we have to use with the world. And bit by bit, consciousness, the rise of consciousness, the revolution of consciousness is not going to happen like this in 10 years or 15 years. It happens over yugas, and it happens over billions of millennia. Yeah? And we need to realize that. So primarily, people who are a little awake should focus on being more awake. Number 2 would be, I feel we don't realize our self-value. If humans realized what they were really capable of, if humans realized what they really are, naturally, potentially, the world would be a completely different place. The world would be a miraculous place. And this is what I have understood by traveling across the world, that even though we have different cultural presuppositions and our own different conditionings, the deep desires or deep seeking, as we call it, is same. Is same. That's why I have a workshop, and it works in every country.
Right.
Right? Yoga works in every country. Ayurveda works in every country, because we are ultimately dealing with same basic 4 or 5 variables that we all need to transform. One of the very basic variables that I have realized from my teaching and traveling around the world is people don't really realize their own worth or value, and we need to focus on that. Number 3 is people don't realize the meaning or experience or importance of this thing called love. We look at it in a very, very superficial way of love being a verb, action. Fall in love, rise in love, and things like that. Love happened, and but not as a sense of being. We look at love as something that we do or something that we experience, but not something as we are. When we start realizing that love is something that we are, and the love that we do is a natural expression of that what we are, the whole field of operation of humanity will be completely different. Completely different. You can call it Jerusalem, traditionally the Jerusalem, or the Ram Rajya as they called it in India. The ideal society based on fundamental truths like inherent value of humanity, the beauty and expanse of being love. So all these things, they sound very, very deep and profound, but actually, if those who are, I'm not going to go to the streets and talk to general population about that.
Right.
But people who are at least a little in the zone of awareness will value this, cherish this, and then it is their responsibility to practice this, manifest this more and more. And then those people will be beacons of light, and we will draw those ships towards the shore.
So let's talk about, I'm sure most people who will be watching this will ask the question then, how do I become that beacon? How do I embody that love? How do I become the love that you're talking about?
A few things. Number 1, as I said before, slowing down. Slowing down. Because somewhere we all realize that we are living in a fast-paced life, and we are in this age of instant coffee and everything is instant. Everything is instant, and it sells because we don't have time. We don't have time because we do too many things. But just because we do too many things doesn't mean we do too many things that we really need to do. So number 1 is slowing down. Otherwise, what will happen? Our distractive mind makes us move. Our body doesn't move the mind. It's a subtle that makes the gross move. Right? So our distractive mind makes the body run here and there. That's why yoga teachers know that there are more people going to an asana class than people going to a meditation or pranayama class. If you have 20 people going to an asana class, you'll have 5 people going to a meditation class. Because what do you do in meditation? You basically sit and do nothing. And we don't like to sit and do nothing. We don't like to sit and do nothing because we realize that if we sit and do nothing, we have no value.
Right.
Right? Because post-industrial revolution, the whole society, the advanced human society, progressive human society, has been under this conditioning of man-hour labor, right? So if you sat in meditation for 1 hour and done nothing, when you come out of meditation, the immediate thing you calculate is, oh, in this 1 hour I could have done this work, and the valuation.
Right.
right? So basically we need to all slow down. How do we slow down? We slow down by simple methods like walking slowly. Walking slowly. Have you realized there are many people, you're sitting, they invite you home, and you're just having a nice cup of coffee. You say, you want some sugar? I'll get you sugar. And if you watch at the pace at which they go to the kitchen and they come out, it's like, come on, it's your kitchen, it's your house, I'm a guest, we have all the time in the world. But they'll go like, as if the bottle of sugar is going to run away, So we need to physically slow down. You have a 9 o'clock bus to catch for office. Every day you are eating your breakfast on the way. Why don't you wake up 10 minutes early? Just sit nicely, have your breakfast, leave your house 5 minutes early, walk instead of running to the bus stop. All these small adjustments. No, I'm not asking you to sacrifice, make some big adjustments, nothing. Some simple adjustments. Number 2 is creating patience. Because you see, you must have heard, or we all know this, that we all always complain about not having enough time. Right? Now, time is a reflection of desire. In the sense that if you have more desires, you have less time. You have less desires, you have all the time. So, when a person complains that I don't have enough time, that means there are too many things on their agenda.
Right.
And just like I said before, if there are 10 things I want to do in 1 hour, we need to find out, are those things, do I have to do what I do? And really weigh and prioritize and just eliminate the things that you don't really need to do. And you will be surprised when I do these exercises with people, and many of my students have really eliminated some things. When you honestly make this exercise and you list things that you kind of squeeze in your 1 hour, you realize half the things are not really important, they don't really matter. So why do you still do it? You just eliminate. So basically what I'm asking us to do is to really prioritize our life, to just harness our energy, effort, intention to those things that really, really matter. So once a person does that, once a person prioritizes their pursuits, a lot of time is created to nicely, easily allow those things to flow rather than cramp it in one small, box of time frame. So somewhere we need to just create more space, and that for me is creating patience with ourselves and creating patience with others too. That is very important. And one more is trust. Why trust is important? Because we all need to realize that this universe or this earth or this everything outside of us or even within us is not dead matter, it's not mere bones and it's not a bag of bones. Yeah, we are living, thinking, thriving beings, and so is our planet, so is our surrounding. Everything is conscious. Nature can provide everything to us if we stay in our limits. But the nature is running out of its resources because we are being greedy. The smallest of insects is taken care of by the nature. It has enough to eat, it has enough to do its things and die when its job is over. Same with us. But we have overstepped our boundaries somewhere as humans. we need to realize that and just stay in our limit.
Do you think that in yoga we talk about memory, smriti, and in relation to what you're saying about our behaviors, it's almost as though we are repeating certain behaviors because we're remembering or certain behaviors. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's like we're repeating the same kinds of karmas over and over because we are having a memory of our world either being the way that it was yesterday or a decade before. We're consuming. How do you think we can change our current actions and consciousness and move away from repeating these habitual patterns that we are doing based on memories, or even like looking into historical events, for example, and making certain decisions around our present because of historical events, whether they be personal or political? How does one move away from that to create real new solutions for things that are happening, like overconsumption, new solutions for peace, new solutions for the change that we want to see happen?
See, number one, you spoke about smriti. Now, smriti is basically a summation of all past informations that you have received or experiences, right? A collective of experiences or memories or life rules that you have created for yourself. You know? Psychologists would call it conditionings or whatever. Our mind is full of that. Nice, good things or bad things, whatever it may be. This is what I was speaking about, that we are in autopilot because of this.
Right.
It's like it is said, like one bad mango or one bad apple in a box, makes all the apples in the box bad after a certain time. So one limiting memory or one limiting experience and one small trauma in your system can create a ripple effect, right? If you told, it's again to speak in a very ruthlessly honest way. It's very, very hard to wake up somebody who is asleep and try to get the sense of what I'm saying. A person who is completely unconscious of what we are discussing right now, will wake up only when their time comes, right? It's nice that we feel that we want to save the whole humanity, but the weight is on the side of those who are asleep.
Right.
I'm not judging them, but it takes time. It's like this. You have a good friend who is a chain smoker. He smokes 2 packets of cigarettes a day. You love your friend. You want the best for your friend. And you tell your friend, why don't you stop smoking? He reacts. He jumps on you. And you say, why don't you cut down? He doesn't want. He doesn't. You know, and he also knows. He also knows that he smokes excessively and it's affecting his health and well-being. But that little stimulation or that little push doesn't yet come. In fact, he comes to you, he breaks down, he says, I want to stop smoking, but I cannot. That helplessness. I see that majority of the chunk of humanity is in that state of helplessness or ignorance or avidya, as yoga would call it. And that's why again the onus is on us few, or those few who are at least a little awake. Now what will happen for such people who realize that they need to wake up a little more is they will look at the masses and they'll get depressed. And it happens. I speak to a lot of yoga teachers, and there's nothing wrong. It's their compassionate heart. They see there's so many people suffering around me. What can I do? What can I do? And they get so overwhelmed that there's so much work to do, and then they get involved in doing that work in such a magnanimous scale only in order to ignore themselves, right? So what I'm saying is that bring yourself first to a level of sustenance in which you can get into the world, change the world without being so affected by it that it renders you, inefficient.
Right.
It's like a doctor who has to go and treat patients who are infected by a certain bacteria or a virus. That doctor needs to have a strong immunity to go into the patients and treat them. Otherwise, if the doctor may be well-wishing, he wants to really go and help those 10 people who are affected by that virus, and he goes in and he himself gets, so who will save whom? So again, I'm coming back to the same point, honestly, because we talk a lot about raising the masses, but it cannot happen in exclusion of self.
Right.
Right now in the modern yoga community, there's a lot of stress on activism, which is fantastic, which is great. But I want to remind the people that activism can happen when you yourself become a strong inspiration. If you yourself are not clear, trusting, and well directed and purposeful in your intention and action, you will inspire people for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and then you will be so overwhelmed, or you will burn out, that you will inspire hundreds of people and then you will not be there for them. So reach at least a certain stage where you are so focused, so well anchored in your purpose and energy and trust, that you can continue to inspire others and wake others up. This is when real change will happen. And since time immemorial, real changes have happened by few people, 1, 2, 3. The masses have been raised by 1 or 2 of them, because they had the power to raise the masses.
Now, when we look at what's happening in the Western world, there are a lot of people who say that they are seeking what we were initially talking about, which is some kind of liberation, freedom, bliss. They're looking for love. They don't know either how to cultivate that within themselves, or they're being faced by current environments that are not necessarily that are either distractive or not allowing that to happen. For example, there's road rage, there's bullying in schools, there's violence in the home, and people are seeking inner peace. So I guess my question would be, how can we cultivate that inner peace in a circumstance that sometimes does not allow that to happen? If we're honestly seeking that, but our work environment might not be positive, or our home environment might not be positive, and as a result, because we can't cultivate the inner peace, we're living in an environment that isn't peaceful and a world that isn't peaceful.
Yeah, very, very valid question, and I get asked this question a lot by people who really want to practice the spirituality, not just read about it, but really want to imbibe and practice the spirituality. And in this sense, it is a very valid question. I feel that we need to really understand the value of peace of mind. Yeah. in the sense that peace of mind is not something that happens. Peace of mind in the initial stages is a matter of choice. Peace of mind is your answer to the challenges that the life or the world throws at you. Right? It's a classical yoga philosophy that you cannot stop the suffering, but you can change the way you deal with suffering. So I'm speaking from that perspective. The peace of mind is a choice. And it happens. There are two individuals given the same task. One gets completely stressed about it. The other says, okay, I'm a little nervous, but let me see what I can do. How is it that two people can deal differently to the same task given to them? This is somewhere I feel that peace of mind is a beautiful power of choice in hands of each one of us. But once again, we don't know the value of it. Now, if you want to trade, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. If you have only one hand and you're holding gold, and I ask you, drop the gold, I will give you a stone. You will not drop it. I say, I give you a diamond of the same size, which has more valuation. Just drop it. So you have to, or we have to realize that the peace of mind that we are seeking is really valuable, really, really worthwhile. Any sacrifice, whatever it may be. Unless and until that happens, we will not really pursue it in a very honest sense. We all say, I want peace of mind, but we end up doing whatever we are doing anyway. And then there's no peace of mind for years and years. And we have heard people saying, I've been looking for peace of mind for last 30 years, and then they drop their job and go to an ashram in India and wherever. And there's no peace of mind there also, because ashram is what? Ashram is same humans trying to live a spiritual life, But somewhere I feel we need to realize what we are seeking. And if it's a peace of mind, we need to realize that it is absolutely important and ask ourselves, what am I let go to really manifest this peace of mind? Or am I just saying? Or am I just a lip service? Am I really ready to let go of some things to get my peace of mind? Or I want this also and that also. That will not happen. And I personally, for me, a good unit of measurement of peace of mind is my quality of sleep. So for me, that's a very, very simple unit of measurement of how my day was. And when I have good sleep, I say, okay, it looks like. So we have our own measurements of, we can have our own measurements of peace of mind, whatever one can decide, and just go about pursuing it. There are many methods. There are many methods. I mean, from yoga point of view, you can say that, you do your meditation and, do your this and that. But there are still methods. What I'm talking about is in the deeper sense of realization. Unless and until we realize how powerful this peace that we are seeking, it's a state in which nothing affects us. It's a state in which the world may be at conflict with each other, but nothing, the unshaken, the kutastha as Bhagavad Gita calls it, unshaken. Doesn't mean that yogi doesn't feel for the world, but he feels, the yogi will feel compassion, but he will also realize that I can only do so much. I know my part of it, but the others should also know their part of it. And me knowing my part of it can only solve half the equation. So we need to really, really realize, and these truths that have been established by spiritual philosophies and religions of the past are not just mere lip service, they are real, they are truths. A person seeking freedom, wanting peace of mind, or wanting to know who you are really. These are real things. They're not just mere philosophies. And when we realize it, when we at least have a little glimpse of it, that discontent itself leads us to this path where things are told to us, things are given to us. If the discontent or this curiosity of who am I puts so much thirst in you, that thirst will take you to the truth. And one needs to be at least be awakened to the value of that.
Are there any last words that you'd like to share, Prasad, for the viewers about change, transformation, any kind of realization or movement towards what you speak about, freedom, bliss, and love?
Yes, number one, and I have made that like a slogan for my trainings, is transform yourself and inspire others. Transform yourself and inspire others. You transform yourself first, and then a time will come when you become an inspiration. A simple example is that you're walking on the road with a lot of stress on your head, and then you see a man sitting under a tree in this amazing sense of peace and contentment. What is that man doing? Nothing. He's just sitting. He's just sitting. But when you look at that man, you say, wow, I want to be like him. I want to sit there. And when you see that man, you don't see that he's lazy. He's doing nothing. He's sitting there. There may be another man sitting next to him, completely depressed. Completely so depressed with the world that he's inactive. But that man that inspired you was sitting there in inactivity, actionlessness, because he was content. Which one will inspire you? This man. Yeah, not because he looks good or he looks peaceful, but there's certain kind of energy that he emanates, and that energy inspires you. In fact, he will not even open your mouth and you know why I'm sitting here, nothing. He's just sitting there in his own peace, and you happen to look at him, and the way his demeanor inspired you. So once you are transformed, you just spread the light. You become an inspiration. You don't have to go to people and will you join my workshop or will you come to my retreat? People will come. And that is something that we holistic practitioners need to realize. And it happens many a times. We have so much work that we ignore ourselves. That should not happen. Number two, the world at large, as I said, needs to slow down. Number three, we need to build trust in ourselves and the universe. There are three things we can build trust in: ourselves, the guru or the mediator, facilitator, whoever it is, and the bigger picture, or God, or universe, or existence, or whatever you want to call it. Whichever is easy, start with that. If it's easy for you to trust God, start with that. If you feel God is too ambiguous and you don't want to trust yourself because you don't know who you are, and you can trust the Guru, trust. Whatever is easy, trust that and start on the path. Next, be sincere, honest, and simple. And when I say simple, I don't mean in the sense of depriving yourself, but in the sense of really asking yourself, do I need so many clothes? Do I need so many shoes? Do I need so many handbags? Do I need so many things? Do I need to be surrounded by so many material things? And once you start slowly simplifying your life, then mentally also, because what you surround yourself with is just a reflection of what you carry in your head.
Right.
And that's why sometimes I say this jokingly, that simplify to simply fly. Allow yourself to be light. And somewhere all these points that I mentioned are very practically possible, and we should just put them in practice.
Thank you, Prasad.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, and I hope we all transform ourselves and inspire others.
Thank you.